Present.
Please stand for the pledge. That brings us to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Bedot.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. That brings us to council committee reports. We'll start with A, Safety and Public Works Committee. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two items on the agenda this evening. Item number one is an event street closure application for the Lakes Area Music Festival Block Party. The motion out of committee is to approve the event application under the condition that the applicant coordinate parking lot closure with appropriate city staff and further provide contact information for the responsible person in charge during the event in case there are issues the day of the event. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just that we're really going to work hard to notify not only the local businesses that this is happening plenty in advance, but also a good 12 hours to try and get the notices out to the people in that parking lot so they can be out of there prior to the event.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second agenda item is a resolution consolidating improvement projects 13-21, 19-09, and 19-16, and I move we adopt the attached resolution.
I second.
We have a motion and a second on the attached resolution. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just an FYI as to what these projects are, since it's not in your packet. 13-21 is B Street from Gillis to 5th. 19-09 is 5th Street Northeast from Washington to B. And 1916 is those three half blocks on B, C, and D from 5th to the mall. So,
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
yes?
Bedot.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. That brings us to B, Personnel and Finance Committee. Alderman Bedot.
All right, we have 7 items on our agenda, and the first of which is the approval of bills, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes?
Bedot.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yep.
Johnson.
Yep, motion carries.
Sorry, I've been meaning to do that. The next item is the request to replace a totaled squad car, and the motion coming out of committee is to authorize the purchase of one 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility for approximately $33,383 and approve the cost for the vehicle and buildup minus the insurance settlement to be transferred from the Public Safety Fund to the Capital Fund.
And second.
We have a motion and a second as stated. Any discussion?
So we'll give you some information on this one. So the manufacturers have specific dates that we are allowed to buy vehicles. We have missed those dates. However, the state contractor in Hibbing had one available for us. The numbers on here were a little bit wishy-washy for us downstairs as well, so we'll kind of break them down. The vehicle itself is about $33,000. The buildup is about $21,000, which gives you about $54,000, and then minus 12 or so in the insurance, which is bringing us to about the $42,000.
Okay, and I have a question, if you can answer it. we just can't physically lease a car from Enterprise right now? It's just not allowed? Maybe Administrator? The only models that were... Please go to the microphone so people at home can hear.
Thanks. That's a good question that we should have addressed downstairs. When I did contact Enterprise regarding this, the only models that they had available that really fit within what our needs are Durango. We currently don't have any Durangos, and so zero of our equipment would transfer from this car to a Durango versus we are going from a Ford sedan to a Ford utility. So some of the components will transfer, and the cost of the Durango was in the same ballpark. So that was the only thing that's available right now from Enterprise. Otherwise, we have to wait till the 2021 model years. If you remember right, we actually had to get authorization to order our Tahoe back in November of last year because of the manufacturers when it comes to police vehicles. They've really changed how they're doing it. They've changed the ordering dates, and they're not completely fulfilling orders. I know of police departments, and in speaking with the dealers, where they've actually shorted dealers and shorted orders, and people haven't got the cars that they've ordered because they're only making so many within a certain time period. So it's not the same that it used to be for us to get police vehicles.
So it's maybe not even an Enterprise problem.
Enterprise has nothing to
Ford
do with
problem
it.
that they don't have the
right,
stock.
there's nothing available. We're lucky that for some reason, I'm guessing the dealer, either somebody ordered this and their funding or plans fell through, or they were smart enough to order 1, 2, or 3 extra for situations like this, because it's hard to believe that throughout the entire state of Minnesota that at some time during the year, a police vehicle isn't going to get lost like this. And it's really challenging now to try and find replacement vehicles.
Okay, and yeah, I guess that answers my question.
Yeah, I'm
Does anybody else
sorry,
have a
we should
question?
have talked about that
Yeah.
downstairs.
Oh, yeah, one final question. But the rest of our fleet is leased through Enterprise
It
right
is,
now. This
so-
will be the only car we own.
Right, the window closed for us on ordering the 2020 Explorers. So we do order 2, and we don't anticipate even getting those until June or July.
So are we going to replace this one that we own in 4 years?
Probably. This will alleviate. This was an owned car. This wasn't a leased vehicle, and we would have been replacing this next year. So now we'll have this newer vehicle that won't need to be replaced with a lease for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Mr.
And once that's leased, I mean, this isn't a problem that we need to look into in the future, the fact that we aren't able to get a replacement.
Well, we're working with Connie, and as we're working on the budget in August and September and October, we may have to bring that forward and let you know, if we're going to replace these cars, we have to place our orders by these deadlines or we're not going to get them. And then the scary thing is, some of the agencies that had placed those orders and then still got shorted and didn't get all the cars they ordered.
I guess, Mr. Chair, I was wondering, what is the deadline now?
It varies from manufacturer and model, so it's
Okay.
really all over the place. I think the Tahoe, Connie, help me remember, was it September, or October that we had to, it was pretty early last year that we had the ordering deadline for a 2020 Tahoe was done before the end of 2019.
No, you order it before they even put it on the line.
It's my understanding that the manufacturers, when they come to the police vehicles, they change things, and so they plan to build X number of specific police vehicles because of some of the components in the suspension. So before, it seemed like the ordering dates would open in January, and they'd close in April, and off the state contracts, we never had this problem. Now things have changed for some reason.
So the Blues Brothers weren't blowing smoke about the cop tires, cop engine.
No, they were right on track.
Any other questions or comment?
Just to provide clarification to it, as Corky mentioned, we have the Tahoe now, and it takes 2 to 2.5 months to build up a squad car.
It depends the availability of the rigging guy. He'll get bombarded because everybody will start to get cars at the same time, but
So it did help advantage that we have the Tahoe
Yep.
now, so we should have it in service by April 1st, I'm guessing. or right
easily.
around
I'm hoping by the end of the month because we need it.
Where the other two vehicles that we ordered, they won't be in service until July or
July,
August.
August.
But we have their replacement vehicles
Yep.
until they're in service, right?
Yep, and we will. The enterprise will allow us to just keep making the lease payments on the lease car that it's replacing. So we were concerned about that too. We have to turn in it because it's the end of the lease and be without a card. The lease people from Enterprise said, no, you'll just keep making those payments and then they'll switch it when the time comes.
Okay, sorry, everybody, final question. outside of the problems we're having with automobile manufacturers, are you satisfied thus far working with Enterprise and leasing? Because I was kind of surprised that we were buying.
No, I think the thing with Enterprise, what remains to be seen is we're going to have to be with them for 4 or 5 years to really run the numbers, to see are we ahead or are we not with what it cost us to buy a car outright and what we get for selling it for where are we at with these ongoing monthly lease payments. That I don't think we can answer. We'll have to be doing it for a while to really run the numbers and see if it's economically the smartest thing for us to do.
Okay. No other questions. We'll vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, the next item is paid on-call firefighter hiring for 2020. The motion coming out of committee is to approve the fire department to establish a paid on-call firefighter hiring list and to hire up to 4 paid on-call firefighters, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to hire up to 4 paid on-call firefighters. Any discussion?
Yep, so we typically like to have up to 40. It looks like we have 35 currently, so we're still going to be a little short on that. But one of the things he noted was that the conducting of testing is early April. Listed in our packets, it says that to present the hiring list to the council May, June, is probably going to be June, July.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, and the next item is the firefighter contract formula for 2021, and there is no motion, it's just informational. Some of the items, and you can kind of take a look at the list that's on there. The big points to look at is that we're looking at about a 0.95% increase overall as far as the cost. The city's portion of that has decreased by 0.02%.
2 cents.
Yeah, it actually ends up being about just under $119. But the big factors in whether or not those things change is an increase in cost, the factors to allocate the charges change, or there's a change in the service district. The value of the buildings and the average number of runs is really what's used to figure out those numbers. So that's how we kind of figure out the percentages at the end, why we're dropping just slightly.
Mr. Chair. Dave?
Yeah?
Is this pretty much set in stone of these service, that we're providing service for? I mean, there's a possibility of dropouts or stuff like that?
Well, people give us 12-month notice. Every single one of our customers could abandon us with 12-month notice.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We can't kick any of them out, I don't think, but we don't want to. They're great partners.
No, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
And if anybody has questions on this, I had a good conversation with Connie about this spreadsheet last week, and she knows what she's talking about. So if you have any questions, ask her about it.
All right, next item is the memorandum of agreement for Deseth to serve as interim building official, and the motion coming out of committee is to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented between the City of Brainerd, Darren Deseth, and the IBEW Local Number 131 to serve as interim building official, further to authorize signature of the city officials on said MOA, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the attached MOA. Any discussion?
So this is a continuation of the larger discussion that we were having about the building official and the interim basis. He will be starting on step 1 of the wage grid. So I was happy to see that we're moving forward with that policy.
That is good.
Mr. Chair, I did have one question on that.
Yeah,
Was there
Jan.
something, let me get back to that. It said something about $1.84 per hour. What does that represent?
$1.84 per hour, Connie, what does that represent?
It's in the.
Down at the bottom, it says,
down
what
at
is the total
bottom.
cost?
Financial input in.
Oh, that's probably a 184 raise for Darren.
I'm assuming that it would be $1.84 per hour for increase for
Yeah.
Darren.
Okay,
So that's his individual raise with the change of position.
okay.
Only other things to note is that he officially starts tomorrow if this is approved, and the end date of this agreement is June 3rd, which is when we are hoping to have the process completed.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, and let me skip ahead here. Next is the review of budgetary policy. And the motion coming out of committee is to approve the policy as proposed by staff, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the policy as presented. Any discussion?
So the next two items here are basically looking at some of our policies. It's a good idea to make sure that we're cleaning up some of our language. This is a great example. The term truth in taxation is no longer used, and we probably shouldn't be listing that in our policies. So it's just a good idea to go through and clean up some of our language. This is a great example of it. The next one will be as well.
Yeah, if you don't follow the policies, change the policies.
Yep.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
And the last item is the review of debt management policy, and the motion is to approve the policy as proposed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the policy changes as proposed. Any discussion?
I won't bore you on that one.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bedot. Brings us to number 7, unfinished business. Call for applicants. Mayor Menk.
Yes, we have some applicants needed for several committees. The applications are available at the City Hall or on the city's website. First item is, all these that I'm going to be talking about are going to be expiring on December 31st of the year that I state. Cable TV Advisory Committee, 2 terms expiring 2021, 2 terms expiring 2022. The Charter Commission, 2 terms expiring 2020, 1 term expiring 21, and 1 term expiring 22, and 1 term expiring 23. EDA, we need 1 person, but this is a little different because it is September 7th of the year that I state. We have 1 term expiring 2020. Next is the Council President.
Thank you, Mayor Menk. I have 1 recommendation to make. If I can get an application, I may recommend you for the Planning Commission. I have 1 term to fill there to work with Jan until the end of 2022.
I won't bring anybody in, huh?
And Dave needs people on the Water Tower Committee. Always, as many as you can get. Number 8, new business. A, resignation of Mayor Menk and discussion of the appointment process. Administrator Bergman.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, as you know, at the last meeting, Mayor Menk did submit his resignation, and I've attached that letter to your packet so you have that. At the March 2nd, or tonight's meeting, the council needs to do a couple of things. Number 1, they need to officially adopt Mayor Menk's resignation and then determine a process for his appointment. The appointment will be from the date of the council's appointment until the end of the year, January 1st, and then it will be in our election in November to finish out the mayor's term, which ends 12/31 of 2022. The council can handle it in a number of different ways. Attorney Langle has advised us on ways that other cities have conducted this. They've published a vacancy and then established a procedure for people to submit their names for consideration, and then councils may either conduct open interviews or select a name from that and make a decision. This was the process that was used both for Mayor Wallin and then also for Sue Hilgart. The other thing is the council can just come up with names themselves, or other cities have used a list of people who have formerly run for council. So those were 3 options. So the recommended action for you tonight, number 1, is to accept Mayor Menk's resignation and then declare the vacancy. And then number 2, to open applications for mayor from March 3rd through March 18th at 4:30 p.m. And then to schedule a special council meeting for March 23rd to interview and appoint a mayor. The reason that we're recommending doing it that way is that that is the precedence that council has done, both with Mayor Wallin's vacancy and then also Sue Hilgart's. But as I mentioned, there are a couple of other options that the council may choose should they want to. So, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and Bonnie Cumberland's too. As I was reading this
Sorry,
in
Bonnie's
the
also.
packet, I was thinking if there's one thing this council is good at, it's hiring a city administrator. But if there's 2 things we're good at, the second one is appointing one of us when they leave. We've got a vast experience in both endeavors. So I think the first action would be to accept with regret Mayor Menk's resignation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept with regret the resignation of Mayor Menk. Is there any discussion?
And declare a vacancy.
And declare a vacancy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Kelly,
I move that we open applications for mayor from March 3rd to March 18th. Can I do this all in one?
Yep.
And hold a special meeting on March 23rd to interview and appoint a mayor effective April 1st, 2020.
Second.
And I so move.
we have a motion and a second to follow the recommended process. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd put the time on the 23rd at 6 PM.
The meeting on the 23rd at 6 PM, and I think we want to put a 4:30 PM on March 18th for applications are due as well.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Bevins, yes. 4:30 PM on March 18th would be the last time that somebody could
And then
submit.
the special meeting will be at 6 on Monday, the 23rd.
Correct. We will clarify that.
All right, Dave?
You know, I just kind of want to put out there might be some members on the council itself that are interested. I am actually interested in that. And if we wanted to look at that, we could decide that now and then open up that position for the council on that date. And it would still be one appointment.
We could, I kind of like going with the process we've used in the past to open it up for the public for every vacancy. I think, and that's the motion Kelly made.
Correct.
So I like going with that. Is there any other discussion, any other thoughts?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Do we want to put in any of the motions that you have to be a citizen of Brainerd?
I think that's part of
be.
I don't think we have to. It's
Okay.
part of the charter.
Okay, I just asked the question.
Thank you.
I believe that's on the application though, correct?
We'll have to be sure to ask them. Any other discussion?
And we said 6 o'clock, correct?
6 o'clock on the 23rd.
And Mr. Chair, you will adjourn to that on your March 16th city council meeting. So on your council agenda at the March 16th meeting will be that time clarified for your meeting on the 23rd.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the resolution receiving feasibility report and calling hearing on improvement 1910 Northeast Brainerd resurfacing project. City engineer.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. To go through, you've all been through assessment proceedings before. The first thing that we do is we set a public hearing and consider testimony for or against the proposed project. So what you have in your packets tonight is the first of two resolutions for our 2020 construction projects. The first improvement here that we have is improvement 1910. This is for a locally funded resurfacing project in Northeast Brainerd. There are multiple streets involved, them being 11th Avenue Northeast from H Street to J Street, J Street from Mill Avenue to 13th Street. That excludes one block of J Street that was done back in 2014 from 10th to 11th. L Street from Mill to 8th Avenue, O Street from 9th to 12th, 10th Avenue Northeast from N Street to O Street, and P Street to Q Street, and P Street from Mill Avenue to 10th Avenue Northeast. So as we go through the report, obviously a feasibility report goes over the need for this project. So considering the anything in the report that you see, we look at pavement scores, curb scores, we try to judge what is the best treatment for a project. This project, we generally have good curb scores, and our pavement scores are lower than what we would typically call a good pavement. And so our staff's recommendation is to resurface these streets, which just means we're going to pull the pavement off, we're going to replace some bad curb. BPU has some water main work that they would like to get done as part of these projects, so you can see there are some BPU costs involved. So we go through a multitude of things to decide these projects. Most of them are based on pavement scores. There's other things that we go off of, such as We have some cupping characteristics in a lot of the roads where we get cracks in the road, and then the cracks start washing out the underlying base, and then the cracks become potholes. We have some failing storm sewer on a few of our streets up on the O Street and P Street areas where around manholes we're starting to see some potholing because the rings on the manholes are allowing storm water to go in and take dirt with it, so we're seeing some potholes on the surface. So the report goes over all that. It's basically showing that the project is needed, it's feasible to construct, we're using the existing right-of-way, we're leaving all the existing curb, we're repairing some water main. It goes over the total project costs, that being $1.31 million. Again, this was a locally funded project, so it's anticipated that we would be bonding for this locally funded improvement project. And I guess staff's recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution in which the council receives this report from myself, and we would call the public hearing on the improvement for April 6, 2020 at 7:30 p.m.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution, receiving the feasibility report, and setting the public hearing on the improvements to take place on April 6th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. during the regularly scheduled council meeting. Any discussion? Paul, I have one question. I just noticed as I was looking at this. What did we do different in our pavement in 1993 than what we did in 1964?
Yeah, so
Has a higher pavement score than O Street, and it was built 30 years earlier.
Thank you, Mr. President, for bringing that up. I cover that in the report in a brief paragraph. It really is due to the underlying soils up on P Street and O Street. When we had Anderson Brothers was actually the contractor on that project back when they resurfaced that street. And the underlying soil conditions are such that we would literally be rolling one side of the street and the other side of the street would heave up 3 to 4 feet. And so the soils have so much groundwater in them that they're really unsuitable in that area. And so as part of the projects that we're proposing, we're going to do a 2-foot subcut. So we would take out 2 feet of that material, put down a separation fabric, and bring in 2 feet of granular borrow material so that we can stabilize that subgrade. That's the reason for the pavement failure, and that's the reason for the storm sewer failure also, is the high groundwater table.
That would extend the life of the road surface.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badeau.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to C, resolution receiving feasibility report and calling a hearing on improvements 1321, 1909, and 1916 B Street reconstruction, 5th Avenue Northeast reconstruction, and B, C, and D Street projects respectively.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. Again, I can kind of go over what these projects entail. During the Safety and Public Works agenda, we had a resolution which consolidated the first, 3 improvements, those being 1321, 1909, and 1916. And those are the improvements that we would be assessing for per our assessment policy. The other 2 improvements listed in the feasibility report are sidewalk connections that are in the area of this proposed project, and they're part of the Walkable Bikeables Committee's recommendation. And so as what we've been doing in my department is every time we have a street project, we take the Walkable Bikeable Committee's non-motorized transportation plan, and we identify if there's any sidewalk segments close to the proposed construction project that we can do as part of a larger construction project to lower costs and to get the Walkable Bikeable Committee's recommendations done in a timely manner. They had tiered categories, Tier 1 sidewalks, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It's really more feasible to construct sidewalks when we're doing a large project. Standalone sidewalk projects tend to get pretty expensive. If we're doing a lot of work in that area and there's already a concrete contractor, there's already a paving contractor, there's already a seeding contractor, our prices tend to go down. So the resolution we adopted earlier was just to consolidate the 3 improvements that we're assessing for. The total project includes 5 different improvements that we are combining by contract. My report goes over basically the same information as the previous improvement, It goes over the need. In this circumstance, our curb scores are very poor on all these streets. You can see that the B Street was constructed, I believe, it was back in the early 50s. So we still have old V-style curb. If you've been on Fifth Avenue Northeast, you can see there's a lot of heaved curb and broken curb in that area. And so full reconstructions are really what we're proposing on these projects, which means that we're pulling all the curb, we're redoing some water main, it's a lot more heavier construction than what a resurfacing would typically have, thus increased project costs. So you take all 5 of these improvements and put them together, our overall project cost at the end of the report comes to $2,069,000. Staff is estimating that 1.232 million of that is state aid eligible, and BPU will have a total cost of around $464,000 to loop in some water mains and replace some old water mains in that area. So there are some smaller locally funded projects on B, C, and D Street, as Alderman Bevins indicated earlier, that we anticipate would be part of that bond issuance also.
All right, looking for a motion to receive the feasibility report and call the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badot.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to item number 9. Thank you, Engineer Sandy. Public forum. Is anybody here to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council? Is anybody here to speak to the council? Is anybody here to speak? Seeing nobody come up, we will move on from public forum and go with staff reports. Any updates since the packet? Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I have a couple of updates. First of all, on the letter of intent between the Children's Museum and the City of Brainerd, I am working with City Attorney Langle to draft that. We had hoped to have it on your agenda for this evening, but did not get it done in time. It will be on your March 16th agenda. I do have a proposal, however, from WSN, but those two things kind of go hand in hand. We'd like to approve the letter of intent prior to entering into the agreement with WSN for the master plan for Lum Park. So we anticipate that on your March 16th agenda. Couple of other little things. I will be attending the League of Minnesota Cities Community Resilience Roundtables. On Thursday, they have a number of different topics. If any council member is interested in attending with me, they are talking about aging, technology, immigration, economics, workforce challenges, and housing. That is from 9:30 until 3:30. It is at Sourcewell. Alderman Pritchett had asked about what the city is doing in regards to the coronavirus, and I just wanted to share with you that we have worked. Tim Holmes has put together a draft of something. The League of Minnesota Cities has also provided some guidance, and we'll be working on something to address that. There currently, as I understand it, are no coronavirus cases in the state of Minnesota, but it's something that I appreciate Alderman Pritchett bringing to our attention. And then one other thing, just sad to report, Stephanie Bestel, who usually is here taking minutes, her mom passed away. We will make sure that we share the visitation information with you via email. So I just wanted to share that. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Any other staff updates since the written? Come on up to the microphone. Connie?
Tomorrow will be the presidential primary, or presidential nomination primary election. It is the first presidential primary election that the state has held since like 1991. So everybody get out and vote. Polling locations open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. Also, we are starting the implementation of the new financial software. Finance goes live with BSNA on March 9th. So we're getting ready for that.
Exciting times. Okay, then we'll go with Mayor Menk.
Only one thing to report. We had a Destination Downtown general meeting at one of the local businesses there. We had a good turnout. Downtown group is getting together and working together.
All right. This council member reports, starting with council member.
Nothing to
Bedell.
report this time.
I have nothing tonight.
I had the opportunity to attend the Fire Advisory Board meeting on the 25th, and so I just wanted to express our appreciation to not only Chief Holmes, but Connie and Elaine for putting all that information together, and also the Brainerd Fire Department annual report. I found both highly informative, so thank you.
Nothing.
Was that annual report included in our packet?
Yes.
Oh.
Last
Oh, okay. Was it in the consent calendar?
Staff reports.
Obviously, you didn't read it.
It was just so long ago. I'll add on the coronavirus thing. Wash your hands, everybody. Just keep your hands clean. and We'll be better off.
Did you skip
And cover your
I
mouth.
skipped Jan, yeah.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to add.
All right, that, I'll take a motion to go to closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C3 to consider a counteroffer.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute recess to clear the chambers.
Not bad.
Yeah, almost kept
This
her under
could be a
half.
record.
I got too curious about that cop car. That was